Hello and welcome to Deconstructing the Construct, episode 42. The magic number. So, since the last one, I wanted to go back and share something because Secure Team just put out a video that may well be supporting evidence for this. Back on the 7th of June, a message was received, which I will share with you guys. And so back on the 7th of June, we received this.
This ends with the biggest flash the universe will see.
Thank you. Is the volcanic activity the beginning of this flash?
Yes.
Okay. And now what Secure Team have just posted, which I'll show you just a snippet of, and I'll put the link in the description, is something they just published it on the 25th, something that was observed on the 17th, I believe. Let's go.
A pair of telescopes sitting on the big island of Hawaii have recently captured a massive explosion of light emanating from deep space, and they have no idea what it is, what caused it, and well, it's all been documented in a new paper. I'll put the link to it down below, published to astronomerstelegram.org, describing what they're calling a, quote, bright, transient, spatially coincident with SGCG. Now, what does that mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means that they detected this mystery of a massive explosion coming from around 200 million light years away. And many of you are probably already guessing, well, what could create such a massive amount of light, you know, extremely far in deep space? Many of you probably are thinking a supernova. Well, you'd be wrong, because this massive flash of light was not only 100 times brighter than the light that a supernova can produce, but it is growing at such an incredible rate of speed that it's totally baffling scientists. Now, here's some few key points here. The blast appeared in a distant galaxy and have theorized that the flash is some 16,000 degrees Fahrenheit, sending this cloud of high-energy particles towards us. It's also bursting outwards at an incredible speed of around 12,000 miles per second. And what one researcher who has taken a look at it has said, quote, there hasn't really been another object like this. And so they are dubbing this mysterious blast the Cow, after the site that captured it automatically categorized it as AT 2018 COW.
Okay, there is more to that, which is worth a watch. There's also a website giving all the technical details, which he links to, which I'll also put a link into. Is that our flash? Is that our kabooey? The other thing is the potential for, and I don't mean this in the prepping kind of way, but there is a potential for a breakdown in infrastructure and communication. I don't feel it will be for very long. 72 hours, 3 days is the thing that I keep getting. If there's anything to this date of the 31st of July, which I'm still haven't had enough confirmation for just yet. And along with that, that's kind of like a one aspect of what's come up. Trust is the meme, the theme for the week. Ultimately, trust in ourselves. It seems like it's coming up now in preparation for the potentiality of a breakdown in communication and infrastructure, so that what we're left with is just ourselves and having to sit with ourselves. And can we trust ourselves enough to do that and get through whatever's going to go down? Now, whether this is an event or whether you want to look at it more like, you know, the political upheaval or financial crash or the volcanoes and earthquakes, and, you know, no matter what your perspective is, I know everybody can feel something's coming. And for any and all of those reasons, there could well be a, like I said, breakdown in infrastructure and communication. And we will have to sit with ourselves. So it feels like right now we are in the process of processing trust. In a world that we all envision, there is no need for it. Well, you automatically, A, do the right thing, but B, can feel and communicate with others at a level where nothing is hidden, and trust is a given. I don't even know if there's a word for it where we really live, if you know what I mean. So trust in each other and trust in self is continuing to come up. This was obviously, for those who know, kicked off for me by having someone recently violate that trust with a series of videos on YouTube. And they are continuing to do so. And they are continuing to do so in such a way that is a gross violation of not just my trust, but the entire LMH members group that I work with. Because as of today, the latest one is a sharing of our private conversations, not messages from Lilu or messages from home, but now it's our private conversations. So it's like the more that goes on, the more I get to look at this trust issue. And so do we collectively as a group. But it's coming from outside as well. It's coming from many other places. And it's even coming from people who have messaged me, not connected to this, saying trust is, you know, the theme of trust is coming up for them. And I think that's why. I think it's because we need to clear the very need for it in the first place, but also to get to a place where we do trust ourselves enough to navigate what's coming. Part of that private conversation that we had just been shared was our discussion around this Stockholm syndrome that seems to be going on for some. This, and I turned it a couple of weeks ago on DTC, like everyone wants to go home, but no one wants to leave. You know, that contradiction going on, because it's about facing the unknown, and that better the devil you know. I mean, as fucked up as this construct is, it's what we know, and the doubts, yet again, of are we just potentially, and even if it's the traditional ascension going to 5D scenario, which feels like it's breaking down for many people too, I must say. That contradiction between the two, between wanting to go but not wanting to leave, between that going, sort of bravely stepping into the unknown consciously and navigating that, is something people seem to be working their way through as well. So that's coming up. What else? I've got some graphics that one of my lovely friends has created as a result of his doubting. And there's mention, there's mention of the dome in these messages that I shared last week. I said that what we were told was that as each person dies from pretty much here on in, there will be a flash and they will be cracking the dome, right? If you've been listening to these long enough, you'll know that we were introduced to 3ZB back in December, which is this molecule that does not gel with H2O, but that it is a cleansing, healing, and transformative, or it has the effect of healing and transforming us. And that's the environment of high.
That's so cool.
I can't because.
Sorry. And I'll just get to those graphics 1 second, bring them up. I'm trying to find it out. Okay. So, and if Pete, if you want to come out and explain these in your words, you're welcome to, but I'll do my best.
Well, I'll give it a try.
Okay, thank you.
What you can see, that is, if could you move it just a little bit to the right so that you can see the dates? Yeah, okay, fine. As you can see, the dome the first time I measured it, it was at a height of 40 kilometers above the surface. And what we found is that when we start discussing certain subjects or becoming more aware of stuff, increasing our awareness, we do get a reaction from the dome. And in this case, it was coming down. So you can see that it's on the 22nd of June. It's on the 20 kilometer point. So that's, at the moment, it's the height. I checked it again just a few hours ago, and still on that 20 kilometer height. Don't see that dome as a solid structure. It's an energetic structure that is there, although it has some physical elements to it, especially 3ZB, water, and structured water. I think that should do it.
Okay, thank you. No, I just want to go to the other one, but I'm going to have to stop share to do that. 1 second. This one.
Can you minimize it a bit?
Ah, yeah, this. Oh, come on.
Okay, well, no problem.
Is that better?
What you see here is the dome itself. And the underside has a lot of water in it. On the upper side, you see a lot of 3ZB. The first time I measured it, when it was at 40, no, that's wrong. The first time I measured it on the June 23rd, it had a thickness, let's call it that, of 300 meters. And then we went through a whole series of and it was basically trust, talking about that and increasing our awareness of it and how important it is for us. And we saw an immediate reaction in the thickness of it. So it went from 300 meters at 10 o'clock in the morning, my time, to 125 meters in just 3.5 hours time. So it does react to what we are doing. And should we stay here or go further?
If there's more to add, go for it.
Okay. Another thing is that the last day, well, I have a vision of it too. I not only doubt it, I have a vision of it. I can see it more or less. And it looks like a living thing, like an organism. It had cells in it. I doused on a lot of energies. And I found like chakras. There are chakras in it. First chakra is on top. Seventh chakra is down at the bottom. Organs like liver, heart, and so on. It's right there, and they're all on the level of where it says the word dome. So they're smack in the middle. That's why you find all those energies. So I have the idea that it's like a living thing, not living as in a real organism, but as an energetic living thing, maybe like a consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
So it's absolutely more than just a dome.
Thank you. Brilliant.
And it does react to us.
Because these measurements, this was all happening during our very intense working through of the issue of trust. It was during that conversation. Yeah?
Yes.
Thank you. Brilliant. Okay. So if trust has come up for you as a theme in the last week, you're not alone. And that's what we feel is underneath it all. It's because we are going to have to trust ourselves more than anything to navigate what's coming up for us all. There's also been a video by Luna Ash, who puts out great stuff, who recently said that she believes we will see red skies before the event. And again, if you've been following this long enough, you know that sometime last year we got the message that red is for the descent in a poem, and the red sky, that's when we started to see all of these red skies. So that may well increase. And I think that's it. So now I'm going to open it up to the group to bring forward anything and share anything they'd like to. So just put your hand up if you've got something you want to share. We also have noted there's a mixed response, but we are, in terms of me like trying to collate all that data about what's coming in with messages, there's a majority who are saying that they're seeing a lack of life or a loss of life or an emptiness to nature, and their gardens aren't as healthy or as productive or as full or whatever as they have been in previous years. And that includes people who do grow crops, right, and have done so for many years. Things aren't where they should be. But in others, there's a flourish of, say, wildflowers was one example, in areas that are at high altitude that have had a lot of rain recently. I've definitely had there was overwhelming response for people who said when I put the word out, I'd like to know if you're connected to the earth or nature or animals or whatever. And we do know that, that have said, yes, it's all gone, like something's definitely changed. Mr. BB33 has been doing videos for quite some time on the strange behaviour of animals, reaching out to people, trying to get into their homes, being friendlier or completely ignoring the threat of humans. So that's been going on for a while. there was that very, I don't know if we mentioned this on DTC or not, but there was that strange incident where those deer got onto the roof of a building and jumped off. So strange behaviour in animals is continuing. But anyway, has anyone got their hand up? Or are we going to be a quiet group again today? Tracy does. Oh, Tracy, go for it. Unmute. Love all.
Am I unmuted?
Yes, you are.
Okay. Well, I've been thinking about this word flash that seems to be coming up with increasing frequency in just in common usage, but also in like the video that you showed to start with of the supernova star flash that to see how that word began to be used in English, at least. Because I also have the idea that we plant clues or hints for ourselves, our future selves or our big selves, plant these things kind of maybe backwards and forwards in time, as movies, as articles, as videos, things that would get a lot of attention one way or another. So flash as a word, the origin of it apparently is rather uncertain. And as far as I could find, it was first came about in the 13th century. And it was just like very simple, like a sudden run of water, like a flash creek swelling or something like that. Then the meaning, a sudden burst of light, its first known use was in 1549. And as I recall, it was in 15 something or other, there was that woodcut of the space battle overhead in Germany. Forget the date.
Yeah.
Because I was thinking, well, what is flash and when does flash even happen? It happens with lightning. It might happen with a spark. So it's chemical or electrical, but not, it wouldn't have been so much of something that happened before industrial stuff got going, was my thought. So there was another meaning for it, which is a very brief exposure to an intense altering agent, which would, to me, like a match, strike a match. And that first known use was in 1970. That's pretty recent.
Yeah.
And there are also other meanings of sudden origin and short duration. And then very recently, having or using a solid state data storage technology that retains data even without connection to a power source. Memory. Flash drive, yes. So memory for a computer, digital memory, but perhaps human memory as well. Or DNA memory or something. Yeah. And so although the origin of it is, I didn't turn up anything of, it derives from this word or that word, the ancient Arabic or the, Swahili or whatever. But it rhymes with a lot of words, a lot of other verbs that mean forceful or even violent movement, sudden movement that may come to a quick end, like dash or lash or crash, slash, etc. And these words turn up in English over a fairly long period of time, from about the 14th century. So I thought that was interesting to consider that, because thinking of the idea of planting clues for ourselves, which we then find, which help us get further. And thinking about webbots, like Cliff High's webbots, how the use of different words is noted, and then he makes interpretations, in his case, that he correlates with geopolitical or financial events. So we have creators saying, the biggest flash the universe will see. Okay. We also have the biggest flash from that star nova, whatever it was that you showed the YouTube of when you started this DTC from Secure Team. There is something that's recently come through this week about, again, about the red star from Draco constellation. I'm not sure on that. Different constellations with flash. There's the TV series Flash. There are flash mobs going back a little further. Those have been around for a while, which are sudden events. And all the superhero movies that have been, you know, in the last several years, which derive from even earlier comics, Flash Gordon, Green Flash, et cetera, and then even the common or colloquial term of a flasher, someone who, you know, opens their overcoat and exposes himself. That's a sudden burst of, in this case, sexual energy. But it's the same thing that is coming up more and more frequently, and also more.
Oh, I've lost you.
Light or an explosion, maybe, in terms of like an astronomy situation. Anyway, that all kind of came together in my head today, considering Flash, and I thought it might be interesting.
It is. I agree. And yeah, it seems like we have left lots of clues and triggers for ourselves. In any and all forms. Thank you. That was great.
Welcome.
Okay, we got anybody else with their hand up? Yes, we do. Kim, you're unmuted. I think I'm trying to. No, you're going to have to unmute yourself.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, just.
Hi. Okay, so let's see if I can just speak up or raise the volume.
No, got you now. That's good.
Okay, great. I'll just speak louder. So the big one for me is the trust conversation, and it has been for some time. This isn't new, of course, but there's so many different branches that I could take on this. But one of the things that is becoming clearer and clearer is the need for transparency. And so there's a couple of ways we could go about this, right? Many, many years ago, I shared something with a friend of mine in confidence. And she then shared it with somebody, and it came back to me. And I learned very quickly that if anything leaves my mouth, I have to be responsible for what I say. So I haven't talked much.
Shut up.
And it's not because I don't have things of value. It's just it is something to be responsible for. So there's that piece. Then the other one is my youngest son is expecting a baby in December, and he's been reading about fathers and families, and he's very excited. And there are indigenous tribes that raised families differently. And the big thing that came out of it from him is the idea of collaboration.
Yeah.
And the families collaborated. There wasn't in our environments that most of us grew up in, the environment was about domination and avoiding being dominated. That's not my philosophy, or those aren't my words. I'm borrowing from another context, but it's very appropriate. So we live our life, most of us, being dominated or avoiding being dominated. And there is no trust, and there is no way to trust and learn to trust oneself when you're in that, what's the word? I guess context.
Yeah.
When that's the context of your life. So we are literally moving out of that context of dominate, avoid domination, into full exposure, into the beauty of being known, seen, heard, expressed. And there may be some backlash from that, but it is time that we move into collaboration. And I don't know how that works. That is the unknown. That is part of the unknown.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's quite beautiful. It's been a little painful, the journey, but wow, there's something big on the other side.
Well, first, congratulations.
Thank you.
And secondly, if he hasn't read a book called The Continuum Concept, I highly recommend it. It didn't really start off as a parenting book, but that's actually what it turned out to be, and kind of birthed the new, or the recent, well, when I say recent, started in the 70s, trend of, what do they call it now? Natural parenting and all of that sort of stuff again.
Yep.
Moving away from Dr. Spock, getting back into parenting properly.
Right.
But it's a great book. Really good.
Okay, that's beautiful. Thank you.
Yes, cooperation.
Well, collaboration, not just cooperation. It's like we haven't, my former husband was a musician, and he often had the conversation with me that he never really knew what true collaboration was, because all his friends wanted to be the one, right?
Mm-hmm.
So he said, it's very interesting. Someone takes the lead, and that's what's really beautiful about this group, is that there is an experience of collaboration here, because you have this wonderful topic, or whatever wonderful is. I think it's wonderful, whatever it is. You have these wonderful topics, and then everyone has their views. They're very colorful, beautiful views. And then so much is opens up, is shed, light is shed, and wow, doings and crazy experiences. This is the experience of collaboration, I think.
You just sort of twigged me on, though, is we got the message not long ago that this is about freedom versus free will. And here we have actually got a real life, you could say, play out of that. The best way I was able to describe it for myself, or understand it for myself back then, was to say that my freedom doesn't impact or impinge upon your freedom or your free will, but my free will can and does impact on your freedom and free will. And this group and this trust issue, and this person who's continuing to violate our trust, is doing so by expressing her free will. That's her, like, spoken words, is that she will continue to do whatever she wants to do for as long as she wants to do it, and that the freedom program, operating system, whatever that is, allows for creation out of love and in cooperation with others. But the free will allows for creation without the cooperation of others.
Yeah.
And that's what we're actually seeing play out here too. So we're actually seeing the freedom versus free will thing play out.
Mm-hmm.
I never thought of it that way, but that's there too, as well as this, what turns out to be a huge gift of us looking at trust. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. Danny, do you need me to unmute you? Or are you good?
I think I'm good.
You are?
Hi. Can you hear me now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I kind of wanted to just touch back to what Tracy was saying with the word flash and 3ZB. I was making a few little notes here when she was talking about it. And the video that you shared with us, Lisa, with that flash, if it's possible, if that's all that is needed to come to our dome, earth, realm, whatever form we're going to use, whatever platform right now, but if it's not as large as we thought, that would just kind of ignite the 3ZB energy, produce that seeing in the auras, and that 3ZB is already seems like it's coming in more and more, the energy, from what I'm understanding from Peter. Correct me if I'm misunderstanding that, but is that a possibility? And we're getting aware to this 3ZB through Lilu and through Peter's dowsing, and we're feeling the physical differences in this. And I just was thinking about it, and then it also ties into the word trust, because what if the media starts saying, yes, something's coming in, and they totally spin this thing, and it's really going to be completely the opposite. So by what I'm finding out here, what I'm trying to figure out, just the opposite of the fear mongers out there. So I don't know, just kind of came to me, and I wrote a few things down, and I just wanted to share a little bit, and always get other opinions on this, because I'm just...
Well, maybe that's something that
here.
Peter's actually measuring while we're talking, and now it's been stagnant for a couple of days, since the 23rd or 4th, and it's on the move again as a response to the conversation we're having. So, which is interesting. So is there a question more in line for Peter there?
You talking to me, Dan?
Yeah, Dan.
Oh, jeez. I get so nervous talking out loud. It's crazy. I don't know if I've got another question for Peter on that. I think I'm good. I just wanted to toss that idea, so I can turn my mic off now.
Well, before you do, just so I understand what you're saying, is that flash could potentially reach the dome, and that it'll be the dome that responds, the 3ZB in the dome that responds. Is that what you're wondering?
That's kind of what I'm wondering, yeah.
Okay. Well,
and if we're already absorbing, understanding what all of this 3ZB is, whatever because we were talking about reaction before we started this portion of the call, and you know, and Harry was mentioning how we react to whatever it is. But if you start puzzle piecing again between the energy of 3ZB and the actual molecule to produce the aura through the energy, I don't know. Plus, all we need is that small type of flash coming in. It could make a lot of sense again. And how do we react? Well, it could be a pretty natural reaction. And we were bringing up that word natural before too. So.
Thank you. All right, Peter, have you got anything to say on that?
Yeah, well, I'm in the midst of dowsing on this this process. We just started the process that I call responsibility. Not only taking responsibility, but be responsible too. That means opening up what you are responsible for. And that covers a hell of a lot. And in that openness of responsibility, that is obviously a new process we just got into, and it's going really fast because we're already on close to 85% of completion. So it's the act of doing it. It looks like that. Mm-hmm. And the dome is reacting, and it's about 100 meters at the moment. The thickness of it, the layer, the thickness of the layer. So it is reacting.
What was it a second ago?
It was 125, and now it's 100.
Okay. All right, thank you. And thank you, Danny. Okay, Annie's got her hand up. Annie, you able to unmute? No? I can come back to you. Karen?
Hi.
Hey.
Sorry, I just had a neighbor stop over. Well, I raised my hand because, you know, it occurred to me with this responsibility thing that it struck me that it's the same as the trust issue. If there's no irresponsibility, you know what I mean? If there's no deception, then there's no need for trust. If there's no lack of responsibility, and I don't know what if you want to use a different term, then there's no need for responsibility. You know what I mean? I mean, the state that I would find myself in or imagine, you know, being in or whatever, not only is trust not an issue, but responsibility isn't either. It's a natural part of who I am, if you know what I mean.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Annie?
Hi, can you hear me now?
I can, Don. Thank you.
Okay. It muted and unmuted me, so I was talking away and nothing was coming. Anyway, after the marathon call, which I was gone all weekend and I wasn't involved in anything that was being spoken about, I thought it was very interesting that I woke up on Saturday morning and the words that came into my mind, my thoughts, my heart was higher self is Holy Spirit, source self, and source. And there's an immersion going on. And I think it's tied to the dome lowering, but it's a preparation in order to open and strengthen our trust, each of us individually within ourselves, and strengthen our knowing, our abilities, and our connections to be able to tune into it.
Yeah. Cool.
And so it's very important right now that we practice that within ourselves. So as this next month goes by, or longer, or whatever turns out to be, that we get in the flow with our hearts. And we also find that we come up with the same things that a group is talking about in another area. Like you were talking in the group and I wasn't there this weekend, but I still picked up on the basic theme of the
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's all.
Don't you love that when that happens?
Yes.
Thank you. Okay, Russ.
Well, I just had a quick thought on this word flash. And ever since we started in terms of talking about the construct, I've always been thinking about it in my head about everything to do with computer programs.
Yeah.
And then we had determined at one time that we were in a copy, that we copied this place and put it in another whatever copy. And to me, it was copied to a flash drive. And so when I'm talking about a flash, I'm thinking like, you know how when you pull the drive out, or like when your computer turns off suddenly, it just kind of, you know, bam, it just kind of does that little flash thing whenever something's just taken out like instantly. And I'm wondering if that couldn't have something to do with, you know, pulling us out of the construct or just ending the game or something along those lines. That's kind of the thought I had on flash when I heard it. So just wanted to throw it out there on the table.
Thank you. It's quite a smorgasbord on our table, isn't it? The other thing, just before we go, because, oh no, JJ's going to stand up. All right, go for it, JJ.
Well, I'm up to 3 this time, so bear with me. Came on, talked about domination or being dominated and avoiding domination. That particular theme I found was covered in a book called Paradigm Conspiracy, and the term they used was power over. And it's a very potent and thorough investigation into the whole mechanism that is endemic in this reality, which is basically based on free will. I have power over you or this or that or the other, and it's extensive, and I way more than I can go into now, but it's worth a look if you're into that kind of stuff and want to know about it. Paradigm Conspiracy, and look into the power over thing. Very well covered. Number 2, the trust/responsibility thing. To me, it's about transparency. We are going towards full transparency. We're going to be able to read each other. There's not going to be any hiding. I mean, when you try to hide, you're going to be seen you're hiding something. We are all basically going to
all be seen.
Yeah, all will be seen. Everyone will see it, and everyone will know that everyone sees it. So it's not like you can try and fake it until you make it anymore, because people are going to know you're faking it. And that's okay. But at the same time, it comes back to trust and responsibility. So to me, they're kind of interlinked and tied together. And also, the thing about transparency is either you can practice it now, you can get used to dealing with what it is and what it isn't now, or it's going to be, I won't say thrust upon you, but it's going to be in your face and you can't avoid it. So either you can kind of enter into that domain or into that sphere of awareness or whatever you want to call it on your own, gently, and explore the contents of what you find there, or you're going to be faced with it one way or the other, and it's going to be a sudden shock, shall we say. You could
willingly or kicking and screaming, doesn't really matter. It's been resolved.
Yeah, the best way of putting it. Last thing, I mentioned this a couple times on our trust show, and I think this bears repeating for the general audience. Everything we talk about, everything we consider, all of the various aspects, all of the input, all of it is hypothetical. We are playing what if games. We are looking down rabbit holes to the nth degree, and we're not taking any of it as at face value. We're saying, this looks like a possibility, this looks like it has some substance, this looks like it's a little thin on the ground, but it's all hypothetical. We're not taking it literally because we don't know yet. We will find out as we go through. Mm-hmm. And that's the strength of this group, is that we all know this. But if that particular factoid of note is yanked out or is not taken into account, a lot of what we say can be misconstrued all too easily. So keep that in mind when we're talking about stuff, as we're looking at possibilities galore and seeing how they all fit together. And we look at a lot of them. And that's our strength. That's our ability. We're analyzing, we're going through this stuff, we're finding out what does and doesn't fit for us personally, but also as a group. So it's part of the transparency thing.
And what gets supportive evidence in whatever form, and what starts to build momentum and look more and more plausible over others.
Yeah, and more. And it's a very rich, very vast, and very inclusive exploration. In other words, we try not to leave anything out. And if something gets left out, it usually inevitably pops up when we deal with it at that point. In other words, we're not trying to avoid stuff. We're not trying to dismiss stuff. We're not trying to say, no, that doesn't make any difference, or that, blah, blah, blah. We consider it all. All. And that's the strength. And if you don't take that into account, a lot of what we say could be misconstrued all too easily. We don't, but that's the whole point of bringing this up now, is that that's part of the given. That's part of the foundation that we're using to explore all this stuff. I think it's important that get reiterated.
Thank you. And Peter just said 95% completion. Can you just repeat for me the process you're referring to that's now 95% complete?
It's the process of responsibility, being open about the responsibility. And what JJ said, basically, that's it. Being transparent about your responsibility, taking your responsibility, not be afraid, don't hide behind it, whatever there is, just be open about it. And that's a process that has started, and in no time we were at 80%. Just the fact that we did it is doing it, and it's really going fast now. And the layer has gone from 125 meters now to 90 meters. So it's really fitting.
Okay.
Whatever that means.
Well, for those who don't understand a lot of this, our experience is that when we come together and work through and talk through a process or a theme or whatever, and Peter, among others, is able to sort of measure it and gauge it. Once we hit 100, there's an energy shift. And whether you want to call it another wave, but there is a wave of energy, not necessarily one of the waves, but a wave of energy that goes through that we then see evidence for externally. That happens a lot. So who knows what's on the other end of this one. And if no one else, oh, excuse me, I don't know why I'm doing that. It's only midday. If no one else has got their hand up, there's the one thing I wanted to just finish on was an observation about blue beam and the fake alien invasion really coming up again. My personal feeling on this is that the technology and the mechanisms and the infrastructure and all of that would get used in order to fake an alien invasion aren't working or unavailable or got taken down or something. But I believe the proverbial they know what's coming, and that in their endless need to control the narrative would want us to believe, for most of us to turn around and go, it's just blue beam, it's just their fake alien invasion, and give them all the credit for it and run the other way. But that may not be the case. I mean, as in, it may not be a fake anything. It may be the real deal. Anyway, thank you very much for all hanging around with me for this. And I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.